right, welcome to training number 4, getting to know the Amazon. We're so excited that you guys have joined us again today as you prepare your teams. Just continue to walk in obedience of everything that the Lord has in store for you and your team. And we certainly want to help you prepare and help you feel ready to go see what all God has in store.
I'm so thankful you're here with us today and you're watching, maybe recorded. My name is Priscilla. I work for Amazon Outreach, and I actually had the joy and the privilege to grow up in the Amazon. I'm Brazilian, and I've lived here for a while, so I have a little understanding of the perspective from both cultures. I'm no expert, but I've learned a lot, and I love learning cultures, and I love observing. And the more I am immersed in it, the more I learn, and the more I am in awe of a creative God that have created different peoples, and these people come together for his glory. So, a little bit about culture before we dive into village culture and Brazilian culture is I want you to keep these things in mind. First, I need you to keep in mind that in culture, not everything is black and white and like right or wrong. There's a lot of things about culture that are just different. In the Amazon, sometimes you're gonna see something that they do, and you're gonna think, "Oh, but back home we don't do that," and that's completely human and normal for you to do, and start comparing things to your own culture and to what you used to. That's an instinct. That's kind of like fear or any other instinct that you have, and there's no problem with that as long as that doesn't rob you from the experience and from what God has called you to do in that place. Because when you start comparing so much that you start getting upset or getting frustrated, then it's going to steal from your experience. So I want to invite you to think about that God has created different people, different cultures, and I'm from a different culture. So, yeah, some things are going to be different, but I don't want to get stuck on those. I want to learn from them too and learn from their different ways of life. The other thing about culture is we're going to talk in a general way, but not everything and everybody is that way. So we have a general idea of culture, but there's also personal preferences, correct? Before I came here, I had never come here until I was 23. And I thought all Americans liked apple pie because that's what I saw in the movies. So that was my idea. And then I came here and found out that there's some people that like pumpkin pie. I don't know why, but they do. So we just have, this general idea of things, but we have also personal preferences. So keep that in mind. And the third thing is give people the benefit of the doubt, because some things that at first might seem shocking to you, if you understand behind the scenes, they don't even mean it. So give people the benefit of the doubt if you've never walked into that new culture. I always like to say that sometimes it's not right, it's not wrong, it's just different. So keep that in mind before we go. And then, with that in mind, I want you to see the map of Brazil, as you can see here on the screen. Brazil is a big country. It's the fifth largest country in the world. So, for reference, America is the third. So in Brazil, we have many different cultures within the country, just like the United States. But you're going to a place in Brazil that is very different, which is the Amazon, and the Amazon is up there. As you can see where the most green is, that's the Amazon. It's a big place in Brazil, and as much as it is a different culture for you, it's a different culture from people in Brazil too. We have people that come from São Paulo and Rio, and they think they're in a different country because the Amazon is just a parallel universe. It's just a different place. and we get to have this opportunity to go there. So I'm gonna ask Chad to go to the next because I want you to see that the Amazon is a region, but it's also a state in Brazil. And you're gonna see it's the biggest state in Brazil. And it's this area of the Amazon region is so big, it's 2.3 the size of Texas. So it's two Texas combined, zero point 0.3. It's huge. And there's a lot of water, a lot of jungle, and a lot of people. So that's where we're going in Brazil. We're going to the state of Amazonas. We call it the Amazon. And there we have the joy to go into the rivers and meet the people that live by the river and meet the jungle pastors, the local missionaries, and minister to them. So these are some of the rivers that we get to minister and go up and down sharing about God's love. Now I want to talk to you a little bit about the different peoples of the Amazon, the people that you're going to get to meet. For all these years, Amazon Outreach has been there 26 years. We have been ministering to the riverside people. These are the people that live literally by the river. We also have the indigenous people and the city folk, which is most of the translators you're going to meet. They're usually city people. Now, again, we've been there for such a long time that we have the joy to have some of the riverside people that we've ministered to join us as translators, as missionaries, as doctors and dentists. So we have the joy to have them now joining us in this ministry as well. But let's go talk a little bit about the riverside people you're going to get to minister to. The riverside people, there's over 30,000 villages in the Amazonas. Only 9.8 have access to the gospel, and only 17% has church presence. But we have this projection of growth 50% in the next decade. So we get to be a part of this revival on the river and see God do beautiful things among the riverside people. The other thing about the riverside people is their lifestyle. So, a little bit that you need to know is that they are involved with fishing, they do small crops, and really depend on the river for transportation. The river is their highway, and they live in this community-centered villages where everything is about family and about their community. Now, some of their challenges would be that, especially the villages that are so far from the cities, would be the isolation. Here's one of their biggest problems that we know as well is access to clean water, and that's why we do water wells. They also have no access or very little access to healthcare. Education is not the best, and also spiritual and financial poverty. And that's something that we see in the villages as well. Their cultural values would be hospitality. If you ever gone to the door-to-door evangelism, they're very hospitable people. They love to have you in their houses. For them, it's an honor that you would come. And they often ask me, Priscilla, how did you guys find us? For them, it's just an honor that you would want to come to their village and come to their houses. They share their resources because of that community sense that they have, and they have a respect for the river and for the forest as well. Now, the indigenous people, as of late, we had the joy to minister to some of the indigenous people. They have challenges there with the government, but I know Carpenter's Way, Geyer Springs have done an amazing job ministering, and other teams as well. So the indigenous people, there's just, 180 plus groups in Amazon. They have their own language, their own traditions, their own culture. We get to bring some of the Bibles in their native language, which is such a blessing. But they also have a few challenges. And, there's that tension between preservation of the culture and then integration with the modern society, which means um, government doesn't always want religion to mix within. So they do have the autonomy to invite us, and that's what often happens. The chiefs will send a letter and invite us, which is a joy. But we also get to minister to this people group. Now, the city folk are the people that live in urban Amazon, and it's gonna be in Manaus. It's the city you're gonna fly into, and I grew up in Manaus. It's a big city. It has a lot of fun things to do, but it also has a contrast. And there is a culture of contrast where you're gonna find a lot of rich people and a lot of very poor people. We also have some of the Riverside people, trying to life in the cities, which is interesting because they don't have the street smarts. So that sometimes is hard for them. And that is another opportunity for you to minister, especially to our teens in the teen ministry, to talk about different subjects and minister to their hearts as well before they go and live in the cities. So the religion in the Amazon, and that's what we're gonna get into a little bit deeper right here. This is also a question that we get a lot. Are they open to the gospel? And the short answer is yes. Yes, they're open to the gospel. They're open for you to talk about God. But here where the things divide a little bit. Brazil is a Catholic country. It was colonized by Portugal. That's why we speak Portuguese. Um, and the Catholic Church, even though Brazil is not a religious country, it has its own politics. The Catholic Church still has a lot of power in Brazil. Um, I like to explain as well because I know so many of you come from Catholic backgrounds or are from Catholic families or are Catholic yourselves. The Catholicism in Brazil is a bit different. We see a lot of syncretism, and we see the main things with the Catholic Church that we see, especially in the villages, is the belief that Jesus does not save. What saves in the Catholic Church in Brazil is the church. So you are required to be baptized, be married, and then First Communion, and then, baptized, First Communion, be married in the Catholic Church, and also before you die, have that last anointing. But the problem is in the villages, the priest will come maybe once a year. And that is hard when they believe that their salvation depends on those things to be saved. So once a year, the Catholic priest will come and will do those sacraments. But if you're gonna be born, if you're gonna get married, if you're gonna die, you better do it that week that he's there. Um, Otherwise, you don't know when you're gonna see them again. So it's hard for them to understand that they don't need any of that to be saved, that it's only through Christ that they can be saved. But none of that really matters. The name of the church, we don't mention the Catholic Church. We actually, some villages, we get to work with them. They even let us use their facilities. Some are harder, they wouldn't allow that. But we are not there to talk about church names. Our main goal when we leave a village is letting people know that they can have a relationship with Christ. A lot of them believe that they need to pray through a third party to talk to God. There is a laundry list of dead people that they have to go through to talk to God. And they could never talk directly to God. They have to wait someone to come once a year, maybe more, to talk to God. Now, that is hard to imagine. But when I think of me as a mom now, my son has asthma. And the other day we ran out of saline water and I was able to order on Amazon and it said it was going to drop off at 4 a.m. And I'm praying the whole time that thing gets here on my door at 4 a.m. Now, can you imagine you being in a village? There's no power, there's no Amazon.com, there's nothing, and you cannot even pray to God because you have to wait for someone to come to your village to intercede. Our main goal is to let them know that there is a God that wants to have a friendship, a relationship with them, and that they can pray directly to Him. They don't need fancy words. They don't need to wait the right time, the right place. They can talk to Him right there in their hammocks in the middle of the night, anytime. When they're fishing, they can just talk to their Creator. And they can do that because of Jesus. A lot of them believe they're not good enough. And to their surprise, when they tell me that, and I tell them, you are not good enough. I'm not good enough. But because of Jesus, we now have access to God. So that's what we are there to do. So I want to challenge you. Don't leave that trip without telling at least one person that they can have a relationship with Christ. Um, Now, the other religion that we see in just growing in Brazil is the evangelical growth. So there's a lot of people becoming Protestants, which is me when I was little. That was a very hard world to live in because it was hard to be a Protestant in Brazil. But now that has changed. There is a rapid growth, especially in the villages. You're going to see that. Now, for the indigenous people, they believe a lot in animism, which is like their rituals are tied to nature. So they believe the trees are God, the sun is a God. So we are blessed to have indigenous pastors that help us navigate that. I recently was talking to one of our indigenous pastors, and they were gifted a land that nobody wanted because they believed that the land was cursed. And he was telling them that God created that land. And that land was a blessing from God, and only He could do that. So every time I talk to him, I learn so much in how to reach that their culture and their mindset. So we're blessed to have these local pastors that will guide us through how to share with different people groups as well. Now, the challenges we have within that is one, which I consider one of the worst things that happened to the church nowadays, which is the prosperity gospel. And the idea that if you come to Christ, everything's going to be goody goody and, you know, and everything's going to be perfect, which reading the Bible, you know that's not true. So that idea is hard. And also, a lot of them believe when life gets hard that God is not with them. So those are challenges. The syncretism, which is the mix of religions, there's a lot of superstition, even among the Christian. They believe if I do this, God's gonna do this. And also, there is a huge need for the deep, day to day, really intentional discipleship. So, those are the challenges we have within the Brazil religion side. Now, just to remind you, our mission is to mobilize mission teams to assist the Brazilian church. Just what I said, like we're there to go through our local missionaries and then help them make disciples by sharing the love of Jesus along the Amazon River basin. Now, a lot of what we do there, because you might not have all the words in Portuguese, I always say the love of Christ does not need translation. A lot of the things that you're going to be ministering is through the most impactful ministry we have in this mission. In this mission trip, in this model of mission trip that we do, the most impactful ministry that you can ever have is the ministry of presence. Like I told you, they every time I go, they ask me, "How did you find us?" It's because that feeling of be forgotten is such a part of their culture that they think nobody knows where they are, not even God. They think they're forsaken, they're forgotten, and they are not good enough even for the government or for other people. So when you are there, just the fact that you are there, it reminds them that God has not forgotten them. The presence, the way that you sit in their houses, on the floor of their houses, the way that you smile, that you hug them, that's the ministry of presence. Um, so here's a challenge for us as we go into a different culture that we might know little about is I have become, and this is from Paul, I have become all things to all people, said the so that by all possible means I might save some.
I like to tell my teams there's three things that you can do. You can hydrate, you can practice good hygiene, and you can practice high praise. Hydrate, hygiene, high praise. And so that's kind of outlined here on this screen, not in so many words, but that's kind of a simple way to remember it. And so even before your trip, 4 to 6 weeks before your trip begins, make sure you're getting out in the heat of the day. If your job has you where you work inside all day, if you can go at lunch, if you can go when you get home, go take a walk outside, spend some time outside, let your body kind of acclimate to the temperature. Maybe instead of taking the elevator, if on a second, third floor, in your office building or your church, maybe take the stairs, kind of just make sure your body's prepared. It's not heavy, rigorous activity there in the Amazon, but there are some hills to climb and certainly some steps to climb, and there's heat and those things. So anything you can do to help acclimate yourself before you get there, you will be better off for that. And certainly start hydrating. My tendency, when I used to travel, I was like, well, I don't want to drink a lot of water because I don't want to have to go to the bathroom on the airplane, right? Well, that's not what we need to do on this trip. We need to make sure we're hydrating. Even before the trip, even during our travel day through the airports, make sure we're hydrating. You don't want to get on the boat already in a deficit. Even that first day on the boat, when you're mostly just going to be traveling on the boat all day and you have the nice breeze, it's not going to feel that warm. You're still sweating, you're still losing fluids. And so even on those days, it's important to hydrate so that you are prepared once you get to the village. That's Amazon Outreach. We work really hard to we go over all these things so that our teams can focus on the main thing, keeping the main thing, which is going and sharing the gospel of Jesus. And so one way to do that is physically through your hydration, through your hygiene. But then I said high praise, making sure that we're praying, before the trip begins. Make sure you surround yourself with prayer partners. List some specific things, for your prayer groups to be praying about. Give them a specific list. We have some prayer guides, we can share with you and our resources, but there are several things that need prayer, that need lifted up before the trip, and then certainly during the trip. Those things, um, like Priscilla just explained, we have a relationship with the Lord, and so we don't have to wait to pray. We can pray right then. You can be praying in the middle of a conversation with a villager. You may be sharing your testimony, you may be sharing the gospel, and you can pray without ceasing. You can pray while you're talking. And so, high praise, spiritually, prepare yourself by praying in advance. Give God any of those things that are making you anxious about the trip. If it's your first time, there's lots of unknown. And the enemy can use any of those things to discourage you, to distract you. And so we know the defense against that is lifting those things up in prayer, studying those evangelism tools that we provide for you guys, just to make sure that, I'm going to be prepared. I'm going to be able to easily and fluidly, share the gospel and do what I came to do. And then certainly mentally and emotionally, kind of like Priscilla has explained, they're talking about culture. you're blending, multiple cultures together. Some of you may be multiple church congregations that are blending together on the boat. And we'll talk more about boat life here in just a few minutes. But, the key word of any mission trip is flexibility. Okay. And you could even add patience to that. And so I like to tell my teams, there's a Portuguese word that you need to know. The first Portuguese word I teach my teams is the word orso, O-R-S-O, which is not actually a Portuguese word, but it means, we'll start at two or so, or you get this hammock or so, right? And so the more you can learn the or so, the flexibility and embrace that, then the easier the trip will be. And so, we have so many stories of trips that didn't go the way that people had planned, whether they didn't get to go to the village that they had planned to, or they spent extra days in a village they hadn't planned to. Man, you always see God in those details, but we don't want anybody to miss what God has planned because they're so rigid in their preparation. And so certainly we want you to prepare, we want you to have plans for all your ministry, but then flexibility is the name of the game. And so, like I said, I like to call it or so. And so, with that being said, when we talk about blending cultures and flexibility, one thing on this trip that you have to kind of get accustomed to, if you haven't been, is speaking through a translator and learning how to work with your Brazilian teammates. I like to call them our Brazilian teammates because we can't do it without them, and quite honestly, they couldn't pull up in a village without us. It takes that cohesiveness of the North American and the Brazilian translators to make this work. And so Priscilla's going to share with us about how to communicate with our translators.
Yeah, we always joke on the trip is like, is it Brazilian time or it's gonna be American time? And really, when you're on this mission trip, you're in the Holy Spirit's time. So if you have a hard time being frustrated or adapting to things that change last minute, this trip is for you. And God's gonna work in you on this trip. It's gonna be amazing. And 9 out of 10 of the Americans that I asked, what was your favorite thing on this trip? They will tell me it was getting to know the translators. And I know so many of you have translators that you met and then became friends and became life friends. I know I do have so many people in my life that I met on mission in this mission trip. So it's gonna be one of the highlights of your mission trip, and we're gonna ask you to treat them like family and be patient, especially if they're still learning English. I personally learned English on the boat when I was 19, 21. I went back as a translator, but I learned like, what is this cup? CUP, cup. I would take notes of everything. So those kids, they want to learn. Be patient with them. Now we'll have also great translators that will be helping you, but we ask you not to cling to one. I know that we tend to like prefer one or the other, but they are not personal translators. Some of them will kind of be just around during the during the week. They might be moved around, so don't cling to one. Be aware that they're very accommodating. Again, remember what I said, very accommodating. So they will definitely want you to have a great time. Please do not give them money directly. If you are someone that likes to give gifts like I do, and like just want to do something for people, you might have the urge of like giving them money or helping them or give them some of your stuff, because you're gonna love them so much. And not only the translators, but even the crew. That laundry lady is so sweet. Our cooks are amazing. But we're gonna ask you to not give them money directly. At the end of the trip, you might have an opportunity to, it's an optional opportunity to give them a tip as a whole for the whole crew and also the translators, the volunteers. So save that money for that time. And we also ask you to not pursue romantic relationships during the trip. Now, we've had many engagements, even weddings on our boat. You can do that apart from the trip. keeping those very appropriate, age appropriate, emotionally appropriate. We're good. We just ask you that romantic relationship is not pursued during the trip time. Okay. Speaking through a translator, first thing, keep it tight. Keep it tight because whatever you say is gonna double. So if you talk for 15 minutes, and if you talk a lot like I do, it will be 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and these people, they live a different life, so their attention span is also different. So we try to keep it with simple words and kind of to the point testimony. So 3 minutes, 15-minute sermon, that's it. Okay, so if you have the opportunity, please review your talk, especially if you're preaching. Uh, Review your talk with your translator. Show them the verses so they can open their Bible before the preaching. If you have the opportunity for your sharing your testimony as well, that would be good. So they can get used to your accent. They can get used to what is the main line of what you're gonna share with. Also, we ask you to speak in short sentences and pause. Short sentences and pause. Um, Use your body to communicate. There's a lot of, communication that you can do with your body so they can understand. And then when speaking to a group, make sure you're looking to the whole group. Um, and when you are speaking to a person, make sure that you are also looking at them, but not so much that they are uncomfortable. But don't be looking at your translator. You still want to let them know that you were talking to them, not to the translator.
If you haven't been on this trip before, that's probably some of the biggest questions we get is, well, what's life on the boat like? How does that work with, a team of, let's say, 25 North Americans? Then you can just about double that with the Brazilians on the boat, with the translators and the boat crew and the kitchen staff. And so how is it that 50 people can live on this open air boat and sleep in hammocks side by side and share all the facilities that we share? And so we're going to kind of run through that just real quick for you guys, especially those of you that's your first time on the boat. One thing is the hammocks. We do sleep in the open air hammocks, and so generally speaking, ladies will sleep on the second deck. Those hammocks, that's the picture you're looking at here is the second deck, and those hammocks get to stay strung up all week because that's really all we use the second deck for. There, the middle part of the boat is for sleeping space, and so the men will sleep, generally speaking, again on the third deck, and the men do have to tie up their hammocks every day because that's where we meet, that's where we eat, that's where we have praise, worship, debrief time, and all those things. And so, really encourage you guys. This is kind of a common theme with us in these trainings: is go to our website. Um, AmazonOutreach.org, look at resources. You can find our YouTube page, and we have some great videos. Steve has made some great videos on how to tie your hammock for those that stay on the third deck, how to tie your hammock like a pro, and then also sleeping in a hammock. It is a bit of an art. I don't know that it's a science. It's a bit of an art, and getting comfortable. I would say most people by the end of the trip, it may take them a day or two to kind of figure it out, but by the end of the trip, they're like, man, I'm sleeping pretty well, and this hammock's pretty comfortable. And generally speaking, what works well is if you kind of sleep angled across, don't sleep directly in the middle in a straight line, but kind of angle yourself, feet from one side, head towards the other side. It kind of flattens out that hammock for you a little bit, but again, it's individual preference, and you find what's comfortable for you. Back sleepers and even side sleepers tend to not have any trouble. If you're a belly sleeper, you'll have to adjust to that a little bit. But again, we've never had anybody not come back because of the hammock. One of the most precious times on the boat is finding quiet time, which most people I'd say do in the morning. They're in the Amazon. The sun's going to start coming up about 5 o'clock in the morning, 5:30, you're going to see the most beautiful sunrise, and that's when the boat is quiet. That's the coolest part of the day. And so this is a time usually where people like to kind of maybe sit to themselves somewhere. maybe journal, do the reading, talk to the Lord, enjoy a great cup of coffee, which we do have coffee on the boat all day long. They have it in the carafes there, coffee, water. If you don't drink coffee, but you need caffeine, they have some tea packets and whatnot. But um, great, great opportunity to get some quiet time, whenever that is. I mean, there are some places and sometimes you can kind of sneak away to the front of the boat, the back of the boat, and get some quiet time. We certainly would encourage you to journal during your trip, kind of journal what you see God do, journal your prayers, and then it's so awesome at the end of the week, or maybe even months later, to go back and see how God answered those prayers. We talked about prayer a few minutes ago, but journaling those things and having a quiet time, having communion with the Lord every day is definitely an important part of this trip. As is our worship time. We'll start each day after breakfast. We're going to have time of worship. That's where it's amazing to sing a song in English and sing a song in Portuguese and just get a little glimpse of all tongues, all nations, all cultures coming together in heaven, and singing praises to the Lord. And so it's a great way to start. We have a little praise and worship time. A lot of teams will do a devotion, and then we'll hear from that missionary pastor before we get off the boat and prepare for ministry for the day. The pastor will kind of give us an idea of that particular village. What's their spiritual status? What's the state of their evangelical knowledge in that village, and so it kind of helps us prepare to know how to minister that particular day in that particular village. But I will tell you, I'll give you a disclaimer. If you're going on this trip thinking, well, I'm not going to have much to eat, and this is going to be my weight loss plan for the summer, you're probably going to be disappointed. Okay, again, Amazon Outreach, our philosophy is if we can help you physically be as healthy, be as fulfilled as possible, then you are more equipped to go out and do what you went 3,500 miles to do, which is go share the gospel. And so the boat crew, the kitchen staff, they prepare three glorious meals a day, three buffet meals every morning. And so when we talk about boat life, when we talk about hospitality, we talk about sharing space. What we would ask you to do is don't be first every time in line. Make sure that you're allowing other people to go. There's plenty of food, and most of the time there's enough to even go back and get seconds for those who may want that. But as you do go through the line, we ask you not to, overfill your plate. I mean, get what you want. If something looks good, if and you're going to eat it, man, that's great. Go for it. We don't want you to go too far the other direction and withhold from anything. We want you to be full and be satisfied. But at the same time, Brazilian culture, we want to honor that and not be wasteful. And certainly we want to think of our other brothers and sisters on the boat who are there serving with us and make sure that there is, enough food for everyone. So just be mindful of that as you go through the line. There's plenty of food for everyone, but we don't want to overfill, and we sometimes we want to go last. We want to serve others. We want to have that spirit of serving on the boat. That's again, the more unified our team is on the boat, Brazilians and North Americans together, all as one, then I really believe it. You see that in the village. I believe the villagers pick up on that, when there's a spirit of unity as we walk off the boat together. And part of that is in sharing our meals together. Um, Another thing that we do on the boat, when you're talking about boat life, you've probably seen this in your packing list. You need a pair of boat shoes. That's shoes that you're only going to wear on the boat. And then you need a pair of village shoes. And so you can see this picture here on the left. That's the bottom deck of the boat. Looks like that's everybody's boat shoes. Their sandals, their slippers, their flip-flops. When you get ready to get off the boat and go into the village, you're going to line those up along the walls there on the first deck, neat and orderly. We want to, again, you're going to be so amazed at how the crew takes care of the boat and how they're constantly cleaning the boat because they want us to be healthy. They want it to be a good experience for us. And so we want to reciprocate that by putting our shoes, nice and neat out of the way, not just leaving things scattered about. But then, so to get off the boat and go into the village, you're going to put in those village shoes. They may get muddy, they may get wet, they may certainly will get sandy, dirty. And so then when you come back to the boat for lunch, when you come back to the boat at the end of the day, they're on the first deck. You can come on board, but they're on the first deck before you go upstairs, before you go anywhere else. Take off those village shoes, and you're going to replace place them there along the walls, and then put your boat shoes back on. Um, and so, certainly, that's part of keeping the boat clean. And then, we talk about keeping ourselves clean. Man, one of my favorite parts of the boat, one of the things I miss the most when I'm not there is those rain head showers. You're going to have an incredible shower when you're out sweating for Jesus all day in the village and you're hot and a little grimy and maybe a little dirty. Man, those showers feel so good. And so, before you get into your hammock, certainly I, would encourage you to take a shower, just in case, there's any kind of bugs. I mean, there are bugs in the Amazon, right? That's we're going to the Amazon, so we should expect some of those things. But the more we can do, again, like I said a while ago, the more we can do to take care of our hygiene, the more it's going to help us have a better trip, and the more it's helping us take care of each other as well. Um, and so certainly, like I said, we want to take care of the crew. Priscilla mentioned a little bit about the crew and their spiritual status. The translators, yes, they are certainly believers, but like she said, not all the crew may be. And so, we encourage you, learn some of those Portuguese words and phrases that Priscilla shares with us. We have a whole list. They're on our website. She's got a video or two about that. You can do it on your own, but take opportunities while you're on the boat, to speak to the crew. Certainly, telling them thank you, telling them, how much you enjoy the food and how much you appreciate their service and just connecting with them. You never know when you might have an opportunity there to share Jesus and bring someone to the Lord there right there on the boat. And then the biggest way that we really try to honor our Brazilian teammates is on the last night on the boat as we're headed back towards Manaus before we go to the airport the next day. That last night on the boat, that last night you're going to sleep on the boat, we're going to have a party. Um, and so we'll line up the tables a little bit differently. You can kind of see from the picture here, the tables are lined up down the middle of the third deck. We're going to seat, those 20, 25 chairs around those tables. We'd encourage you to bring decorations, really kind of make it a big deal, make it a festive thing. But this is all really just as a final act of appreciation for our Brazilian teammates. And so the way I like to do it when I lead my teams is, we'll kick all the Brazilians out of the third deck. We make them go downstairs. All right, we got some, party prep to do. And then once we're ready, once the food is ready, the kitchen staff, they'll still prepare the meal that night. And then once all the food's ready on the buffet, then we ask our North American teams be lined up there along the top of the boat, along the stairs as they come up, and you're clapping and cheering and hooping and hollering and just really making them feel special. Let them know how much you appreciate just all that you've seen them do and how well they've served all week. We want to make a special emphasis of serving them. And so on that last night, I would encourage you. It can be your team leader, it could be, someone your team leader picks, but have someone once all the Brazilians are seated and eating and enjoying their food and you've served them their drinks, have someone, share a few words just of appreciation. Again, we don't ever want to take it for granted. Well, this is their job, because that's not the attitude that works well in the boat. It's an attitude of service. It's an attitude of unity. It's an attitude of these are my teammates and I can't do it without them and vice versa. And so we want to honor that, that last night on the boat and leave everybody, kind of on a high, especially after what we've seen God do all that week through this unified team. And so all that being said, I'm going to turn it back over to Priscilla, and she's going to share with us kind of, how do we dress for the Amazon and
Mm-hmm.
for boat life?
Yes. So this is one of the things, and the girls can agree with me. When you go anywhere, you're invited to a place, first thing you think is, what am I gonna wear, right? So, especially in a different country, if you've never been before, what am I supposed to wear on this mission trip? So our dress code is, we're going to talk a little bit about it, but why do we even have a mission trip that dress code? Well, because different settings require different dress codes, right? You're not going to wear to church what you wear to go to the beach or to Disney World. Those are two different things. So the other thing is we are representing Christ and our churches, but most of all, we're also, I mean, besides Christ and our churches, we're also representing that local church that we're partnering with. And in the Amazon, people still have an idea what a Christian is supposed to look like. So we don't want to be a distraction. We don't want to be a deterrent to our local pastors. We want to make sure we are there to help them and not take away from their work that they work so hard on. So we are representing them. Also because dressing appropriately removes those unnecessary cultural barriers. Like why are they dressed like that? Don't they love Jesus? What's going on? And also, just a reminder, it's fun, there's parties, there's good food, but we are not on vacation. We are on mission. So we're gonna be on mission and we're gonna have a missional mind the whole time. Okay, so first thing you need to keep in mind is to keep it simple. Don't bring anything that is too expensive that it's going to consume your mind the whole time. Oh, if I lose this. Oh, if I lose this. If I lose this. Again, don't bring those distractions. So you're going to leave all your Versace, Gucci, Louis Vuitton at home. Now, Priscilla, can I bring good quality things? Of course. Maybe there's a sunglasses that you like. Again, be careful because people sometimes just put them over the rail and there they go with the river and they're gonna be left behind for the pink dolphins. So just keep in mind, if you want to bring things that are good quality, but that you wouldn't mind losing or forgetting or donating, but not things that are of huge value. And even your wedding ring, if you want to just maybe bring something that's, that you usually take for your trips, that's something too that you can do. But keep it simple, and we are there to be a representation of Christ to them. The second thing is keep it cool. The Amazon has 2 seasons, which is hot and hot with rain. So it's going to be always hot. So we ask you to please make sure that you bring things that are lightweight. Even there are some t-shirts here in America that are too thick. Bring it lightweight things that are not going to give you BO, and things that are going to be good for a humid, hot weather. The third thing is keep it appropriate. I'm on this mission trip not to be a distraction, but really help people understand how much Christ loves them. So sometimes things that we are wearing can be a distraction. I just had someone talk to me because there was someone that was wearing t-shirts that were not appropriate, and it was a t-shirt. It wasn't revealing, it wasn't anything, but was inappropriate for any reasons. So when I'm packing, I'm thinking, would this be a distraction? Would this go against? And you might think, Priscilla, I need more guidelines. We got you. We got you. Let's go see those guidelines. Okay, so first, you are gonna avoid these. Okay, so no crop tops, girls. We're not gonna be doing that. Okay, no inappropriate graphic t-shirts. Priscilla, do you need to say that? Yes. Can you believe it? We do. Appropriate graphic t-shirts. Put something that says good things or something that shows good things. Okay, so no weird wording, no weird images on your t-shirts. Also, low riding. Who is doing that in 2025? 26. Nobody's doing that. Okay, so no tight fit, no low cut. Guys, someone somehow brought the shorty shorts for guys from the 70s. We should have left it there in the 70s, okay? We're not bringing those. We're not packing those. We're going to leave them there in the 70s. So regular shorts, what do those look like? Right here. So here's some ideas, okay? We're gonna wear long tops. Nobody needs to see your belly button. Good t-shirts that, have a good message. Bermudas are great. Again, lightweight fabric, dry fit. Look at those shorts, guys. Long shorts, okay? A lot of high schoolers that go with us, they ask me, Priscilla, what would be a short short? If I can see your t-shirt and I cannot see your shorts, that's too short. Okay, that's too short. Other thing to keep in mind is we have stairs that are not completely covered. So when you go up, and if you have a dress or a shorts that I can see everything, we're gonna see everything because the stairs are see-through. Keep that in mind. Okay. So Priscilla, what does that look like in real life? Well, this is what it looks like. First, this is what we wear for the church day. So we ask you to pack things like shorts and t-shirts and appropriate things like that, but also bring one change that you can wear to church. So that can be a dress or loose pants or something a little bit nicer to have in your suitcase. And then I put some pictures of what our trip goers look like. You see? T-shirts, shorts, pants, they're lightweight. There's something else that's really good. Bring your sunglasses. These are some youth and singles trips that you can see how they're dressed. See, nothing like too crazy. And if you have any questions about that, we can answer your questions as well. Again, we're gonna have the packing demo coming to you so you can have an idea how many t-shirts and bottoms and tops that you would need for this trip.
All right. So listen, as we wrap up this meeting again, we'll have breakout rooms for those who want them. As soon as we finish here, Priscilla will stop recording. But for anyone who may be watching this as a video in the days and weeks to come, continue working on your testimony. That 15-second, that 3-minute testimony. Kind of paying attention to all those points that Priscilla made about being concise and simplifying it, but still making sure that you're delivering the message. Priscilla will be, if she hasn't already, be sending your team leader, the WhatsApp link for your group. It's really important to use that WhatsApp link. It's as you get closer and closer to your trip, you may email your team if you're a trip leader. But if you want to make sure everybody checks their email, you can follow it up with a message on WhatsApp. And then when you're traveling to the airports where people may or may not have international data plans, they could get on the airport Wi-Fi. Hey guys, our gate has changed from B39 to C14 or whatever. And so it's just a good way to keep up. And then, on the boat, even sometimes it's a good way to get out a message to everybody without having to go up and down the stairs 2 or 3 times. Let your leader know if you're a team member, and you feel the Lord kind of leading you in one direction or another, one particular area of ministry, let your team leader know. It's super important to at least go in with a plan. Like we said, we operate under that flexibility and that orso mindset, but it doesn't mean we don't plan and we don't prepare. And so, it is good to go in with a plan of who's doing what ministry, who's the captain in those areas, and then things will just flow that much better once we get there. And so, generally I like to put my ministry captains kind of in charge of supply collection. You guys can do that however you want to as a team yourself, but we have that list there on our website under important team information under our resources tab. If you still need to fundraise, continue working on that. Probably the biggest one is when that second $2,000 is due. The way that is structured, those dates are not random. Those dates usually coincide with when we purchase air tickets, and so that second $2,000 that is due, that's a big kind of goal deadline that we ask you to pay attention to as much as possible. Continue practicing your Portuguese. Again, as we've mentioned, the more you can have just some light interaction at least, the further it will go in building relationships there, both on the boat and certainly in the village. And so, again, you can go, this is still kind of you can go through managed missions, but really you can go straight through our website, amazonoutreach.org, go to resources, important team information, and you can find everything that we have shared there. So we wish you guys good luck, and we look forward to hearing about everything that the Lord does through your trips here in the coming months. And so with that being said, we will see you down the road. Thank you so much.